Lora with Mothers Against Drunk Driving is joining us today. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Kim.
Obviously, a lot of talk, a lot of concern about the crash in Santa Fe early yesterday morning that deputies believe was DWI related. A lot of people are asking, what's wrong? Why has this happened again? How do you feel we're doing in this fight?
Again, we've made great strides in the fight, but you can see even with the 100 Days and Nights of Summer, with all of the legislation, being the first state to have interlock laws in the country, being a leader in that area, and we still couldn't prevent something like this. So obviously we need to look at changing behaviors and some of the advanced technology that could come into play.
From what you're seeing, what would MADD like to see next? I know there were some bills pushed to the legislature that didn't pass that you guys stood behind.
Sure. There's a few loopholes within the law. We really were able to tighten up. We had Senate Bill 275 that did pass this year. Senator Cravens carried that bill, and we were very fortunate that we can tighten up so that a person who has gone in and determined that they don't have a vehicle at this time, later on they would still have to at least drive a certain period of time with an interlock prior to receiving a license, an unrestricted license.
Because what you were seeing is a lot of people for the year period say, oh, I don't have a car, so they get away with it and they slip through the cracks.
It looked like that was happening, so that's one area that's been tightened up. But there's a few other little pieces that we'd like to see tightened up and make sure that those types of things don't continue to happen. Again, we have great laws in place. We'd like to look at the judicial system to make sure those, in fact, are being implemented.
And at this point, from what you're saying, are you still reviewing this, or do you feel, because that does come up a lot, people don't think these people are getting the sentences that they should?
We have this court monitoring project. We work with Traffic Safety Bureau and the governor's office right now to assess what types of things are happening in the court system. We're seeing some areas that could use some improvement, and we'll have a report that will come out to talk a little bit more about that and what types of things we can do as a community to support that effort.
Have you seen at this point, as far as any big advances, that yes, we have done good in these certain avenues?
We know that we've decreased over the past few years. This year compared to last year, it looks like we're about level, but it's unfortunate that it always seems that just when we've gotten a little bit complacent about it, we'll have another crash such as this terrible tragedy that brings it right to the forefront again. And it reminds us we cannot become complacent. It is a situation that happens more often than not in our community still. Despite all of the education, despite all of the efforts that we've given it, it still happens.
And that was a lot of the discussion we've been having in the newsroom. It's like, well, what about education? I mean, at what point does it become, have we done all the laws we can? Have the judges done all they can? Police are arresting them. At what point, I mean, is it that point where you feel you can educate people?
I think it's a long-term behavior change. I see the trend is changing very, very slightly, but I believe it starts with our youth, working with the Protecting You, Protecting Me in the school systems. We have a youth summit coming up at the end of this month to try to help teens understand not only the dangers of it, but also to give them some tools as to how to go about learning a little more so that they know how to say no or they can get out of this situation. But then I also believe it comes right back to that advanced technology that is being developed that will help us to not be allowed to drive if you're over .08.
Okay. Thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kim.